Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's easier.
Yes.
It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
A little pat on the shoulder there. I love that. Joining me now is Rich Lowry, editor-in-chief of the National Review, and Julian Epstein, attorney and former House Judiciary Counsel. Great to see you both. Thank you for being here. Rich, I want to go to, first of all, I was just laughing when I was seeing a lot of that, because it appeared that Trump was undercutting any kind of plan that Mamdani had, whatever his plan was in that situation. But he also, yesterday, he kind of doubled down on the fascist thing because he wanted to please his left-wing base on NBC. Roll that tape.
Mr. Mayor-elect, just to be very clear, do you think that President Trump is a fascist?
And after President Trump said that, I said yes. And
so you do?
And that's something that I've said in the past. I say it today. And everything that I've said in the past, I continue to believe.
Rich, he's relying on Trump's permission to call him a fascist. It kind of takes away some of the bragging rights of being this tough guy against Trump, right?
Yeah, so first of all, I think 100 years from now, people want to understand Donald Trump's appeal. That clip should be in a time capsule somewhere and dug out of the ground, and they should look at it. It's good humored, it's funny, has a subtle sense of command about it.
And undercuts his enemies.
Yeah. So I think Mamdani, he needed a good meeting. He got a good meeting.
Yeah.
He's a shrewd and charismatic politician, but there's no way this relationship, such as it is, doesn't break down, and maybe sooner rather than later.
Julian, I had on before a congresswoman who put out that resolution against socialism. What surprised me about it was that there were so many Democrats who went with Republicans on that notion. With all the focus on Mamdani over the past several weeks, everybody thought all Democrats were kind of falling in line behind the socialist economic policies. Not so by that vote. It was about 50-50 Democrats going with socialism and against socialism. You're a Democrat who's against socialism. Were you encouraged by that vote or not?
I was discouraged. I think it should be 90% of Democrats, 99% of Democrats that are voting against socialism, which has about a 0 for 1,000 record across the globe in the 20th century and 21st century. So look, I think, with respect to Mamdani, he's a guy who tries to have it both ways. He says, I want to do business with Trump, and then 2 days later, he's back to calling him a fascist. He sort of tries to appeal to whatever audience he's speaking to, the same way he can say, I am against anti-Semitism, but I can't really condemn the people that are violently attacking Jews outside of synagogues. Right. And this is going to suggest two themes, I think, for Mamdani. One is that he's a little bit hollow. He doesn't really have very strong core beliefs beyond what appeals in the influencer realm. But secondly, he doesn't know which way to go. If he goes far left and socialist, many Democrats will probably tell you they all believe he's going to fail. And if he goes to the center, he's going to be betraying this sort of the Politburo extremists that make up the Democratic Socialists of America, who are his big base. So I think he's in a very tough position right now, and I don't think he knows which way to go. And I think you're going to continually see through the spring of 2026 the idea that the emperor's not wearing a lot of clothes.
Right. And another Democrat really caught in the dilemma here, right, is Kathy Hochul, who endorses Mamdani at the end of the campaign for craven and cynical reasons. But his program doesn't get off the ground unless she raises taxes significantly. And initially she said, no, I'm not going to do it. Now she's showing some leg on corporate taxes, which would be terrible for New York State. But Mamdani needs her to go along. And the problem is, if she goes along, she'll please his base, but she has a real competitive election potentially coming her way next year.
Yeah.
Well, quickly,
music to the ears of Elise Stefanik.
What the Trump haters did notch a victory today in terms of stopping that indictment against, at least temporarily, against AG, the Attorney General for New York, Letitia James, and Jim Comey. Is that going to remain as such? Will it be appealed by Trump?
So it's going to be appealed. I'm not sure he's going to win, but this is a technical question, an important one, whether she's actually qualified technically under the law to bring these indictments or not. Judge says no. Even if that ruling stands, the Justice Department will be able to get someone else in there and re-indict. But I'm not sure these cases are really going.
Julian, you're a lawyer. What do you think of this case?
Well, I agree with Rich, except for the fact there's a statute of limitations on the re-indictment issue. So it's a tricky issue. Look, I'm not crazy about any of these lawfare cases. I was very against many of the Trump cases, the cases that were brought against Trump, because I thought they were incredibly abusive. And I'm not crazy about these cases on Comey and Letitia James. That said, neither of the two of them have clean hands. Comey, along with Brennan and Clapper, did run a campaign in 2017 that completely exaggerated the significance of any Russian interference and suggested Trump may be criminally culpable in that interference. And that was wrong, and I think they knew it was wrong. So regardless of what happens in this case, I think history casts a very jaundiced eye towards all three of those national security figures.
So Julian has a standing to say these cases shouldn't be brought, and you shouldn't inflate minor fraud cases into something big for political reasons. But Letitia James does not have the standing to say that, given what she did.
Right. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Julian, I just want to, one final thing I want to get in here, because there's these lawsuits against Meta that they apparently allowed 17 strikes against sex traffickers before they pulled the sites of these sex traffickers on the website, on the Facebook websites. It kind of brings to mind the 300,000 unaccompanied children who came in to the United States during the Biden administration that were just lost by the government. They couldn't find them anymore. It seems, and you look at the history of the people that were indicted by ICE, the arrest of 3,500 illegal aliens in Houston, sex traffickers, almost all of them. The rap sheets, one after the other, shows some kind of sex trafficking or sex with children. Apparently, there was a lot of truth, Julian, to the idea that the people that were coming in, the kids that were coming in that we lost sight of, were involved in sex trafficking directly, quickly.
I think there's no question that there was that kind of abuse and many other kinds of abuse, particularly in the Biden years with the unpoliced immigration system. As for social media companies, they have turned a blind eye on this and many other abuses that are going on in our culture, largely because they have an exemption from liability known as 230. Right. And if Democrats and Republicans had any spine, they would repeal that law.
I agree. You agree, Rich?
I don't agree on Section 230.
Really?
I do agree these companies are not run. You know, we all hear the stories. They don't have their own kids on social media, and you'd hope they're at least being run with their own kids in mind. If their own kids were on it, what would they want the policies to be? And if these witnesses in this case are accurate, they fell down in that.
The unintended consequences of Section 230. I think we're beginning to see how dangerous some of those consequences are. But got to leave it at that. Rich Lowry, Julian Epstein. Great to see you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.